Hello everyone, it is Shakes, and today I'll be going over the top 10 best FPS games on Steam. Now, everybody knows Steam is the best online platform ever made by the holy company of Valve, but despite that, the market is kinda saturated with a lot of games that are, terrible and a complete waste of your time. So here I've condensed the thousands of offerings of Steam into a quick top 10 list to show you the best FPS games to waste your time in. Keep in mind that this video will be focusing on multiplayer-based FPS games, not single-player ones, so if you were looking for recommendations in that area, this video might not be for you. But since I need every single view I can get, I'll list a top 10 of those anyway. Fallout New Vegas, Metro Exodus, Bioshock 1 and Infinite, Wolfenstein The New Order, Doom 2016, Doom Eternal, Borderlands 3, and Mass Effect 2 and 3. Done. Without further ado, like the video for a chance to win absolutely nothing, and let's get into the video. Now, believe it or not, Fortnite was not created out of completely original ideas born by Epic Games to invite children from all over the world to dedicate their lives to. The success of Fortnite was largely caused by it copying, or as they like to call it, being inspired by, PUBG. The game, which had hit new records on Steam for having millions of players playing online at once, and was quickly becoming one of the largest games ever. PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds was pretty much the game that made the Battle Royale genre explode, because unlike the messy attempts before it like H1Z1, it was far more refined and actually played like a shooter. PUBG is what most would point to as original Battle Royale, and is a game that I would definitely recommend to anyone who enjoys that kind of game. Sadly, it has a metric ton of cheaters and is quite buggy, but don't worry, to fix these issues that have persisted for years, they decided to release a mobile version of the game. Jokes aside, I'd certainly recommend PUBG to anyone that actually enjoys Battle Royales, which I know is a rather uncommon trait for anyone who dislikes RNG and skill-based games, but if you like BRs, then this game is definitely one of the best out there. Now, the games in Halo MCC aren't exactly new, in fact far from it, but the fact that nothing has changed is actually really refreshing for once. Unlike the Call of Duty series where every single year they try to reinvent the AK and inevitably end up disappointing everyone, Halo MCC is pretty much just the exact same game that people loved over a decade ago, and as they say, if it isn't broken, don't try to break it and call it innovation. The Halo 3 that everybody enjoyed in the late 2000s is still here, and with a PC port, it's finally nice to be able to play Halo with a mouse and keyboard. The only problem with the Master Chief Collection is that all the issues that were there back then have not been touched, like Halo Reach's inclusion of various mechanics that no one really likes, like sprint and armor lock, but despite that, the game surprisingly hold up well even after so many years. If you want the classic Halo feel, it's definitely here, and with the inclusion of a great campaign and fantastic modes on the side, this is certainly a game to look into. Movement shooters are sadly a bit of a dying breed nowadays, as companies realize more and more that making a game that everyone can play at practically the same level attracts more players, but despite this, Quake Champions brings the classic high skill feel of Unreal Tournament to a bit of a newer audience with a variety of classes yielding different abilities, but keeping the same essence of gameplay. It's one of the only games that truly feel like it's all up to you and your own skill, without having to worry about bad teammates or other factors that can make you unfairly lose. Anytime you die in Quake Champions, you realize that it was probably your fault instead of being able to blame it on 4 other people. If you want your aim skill and movement ability to be tested to the highest level, there's honestly no better game. The only reason it isn't any higher on this list is simply because the player numbers are quite lacking and have been for a while, because as I said before, most movement shooters don't really take off nowadays because they don't attract a wide enough audience, seeing as you can't just pick up the game and be good at it on the first day. Keep in mind that if you don't have the best mechanical ability, this game will definitely be a challenge, but sometimes the challenge is good, and playing this for a couple weeks will make you a way more skilled FPS player overall. I bet a lot of you guys are surprised to see Destiny 2 on this list, as many people might just see it as a shoot one big target for ages until their massive health bar decline simulator, but despite its reputation, there's so much more to this game. The game features both PvE and PvP modes, which is awesome as it allows you to go swiftly from playing with your friends against hordes of AI enemies for overpowered loot, directly to jumping into a match against other players to test out your abilities on something that actually has a brain. Believe it or not, the PvP modes, commonly called Crucible, as that is the name, so I don't exactly know why I just said that, but anyway, believe it or not, the Crucible is a ton of fun, and alongside the class system, which gives you different abilities and ultimates based on what you choose and where you go with the skill system within them, so already there's a lot more depth than you might have been expecting from a game built originally on PvE. The gunplay is incredibly satisfying, something that is honestly kind of challenging to find on many shooters nowadays, and the variety of guns alongside the never-ending hunt to find better loot is something that is an addicting yet scarce feature nowadays that keeps you wanting to play more and more. It's pretty fun to get a brand new weapon or piece of gear that will inevitably make little to no difference, except making you believe you're stronger than you were. The base game is entirely free, so despite the near 100GB download size, I'd recommend this game to, anyone who likes fun. That might be a rare trait nowadays, but if you enjoy actually fun loot grinding in an FPS game, this might be the title for you. Now, since this list is all about multiplayer shooters, I decided to add one of the best co-op multiplayer shooters I've ever played, which is Payday 2. Keep in mind, for the best experience, you're going to need 3 other people, hopefully your friends, but honestly, playing a few heists with any group will turn you to friends because of how much fun the game actually is. The graphics might be a little bit dated, but what really matters is the gameplay, and the co-op gameplay of doing heists is just as fun as it was at release because of so many different factors, from the classes to the maps or the RPG systems or even the epic music that makes you feel cool even when you're just holding down the F key to restart a drill. The amount of strategy and depth this game has is surprising, and if you have a group of buddies that you want to blame for all your failures, then I'd say there's no better game for it. I don't know if Paladins releasing around a similar time as Overwatch was a blessing or a curse, because despite it getting some popularity for being a free version of Overwatch, I believe many may not have tried this game because they believed it was just a clone of a way different game. Paladins is a game with far less emphasized shooting mechanics, with the projectiles and hitboxes being absolutely massive compared to their more popular counterpart, but despite this, there's still a ton of depth for you to enjoy. My favorite part of Paladins is the introduction of talents and card loadouts, where you can customize a specific champion even further to your playstyle by giving them specific buffs in all the right areas to make sure they play exactly as you want them to. Card loadouts really allow you to customize how you play, a lot like MOBAs with this feature, which gives a ton of extra depth into the gameplay. And with the purchasing of items throughout the match, it really feels just like a MOBA in an FPS setting. Don't worry, there's playstyles for absolutely everyone, and if you're all aim no brain like I am, there's still ways to utilize your skills effectively. The depth you're given to mess around with champions alongside the large 45 character roster gives a lot of incentive to play and try as many champions as you can get. The game is entirely free, and with consistent developer support, it's definitely a game to give a try if you enjoy class-based shooters. Now, this game has a pretty special place in a lot of people's hearts, and it's for a good reason. It's fun. It seems for once that the developers have hit the nail on the head of understanding exactly what pure fun feels like, and has expertly designed it into surprisingly an EA game. Who could have guessed? Anyway, the entire game seems to be designed on the principle of fun. There's little to no downtime in this game, which is pretty rare nowadays, in the midst of BRs where you spend most of your time just running around and looting, or tactical FPS games where you die until the end of the round, while Titanfall 2 keeps the pace going. While most games have de-emphasized movement mechanics over the years, Titanfall 2 has some of the most enjoyable movement in any game, and mastering your ability to stay off the ground for as long as possible is the essence of fun, literally just because of the movement. It has awesome crisp gunplay and massive titans that you can hop into to give you a change of pace when you just want to feel a little bit overpowered.
If it's not fun, why bother?
If you want one of the most entertaining casual shooters that just tries its best to be fun, then there isn't very many options that beat out Titanfall 2. You know, it takes a lot to be published by Ubisoft and not be bad, but somehow Rainbow Six Siege has done it. Siege has surprisingly been out since 2015, and ever since then it has received tons of updates with new characters, balance changes, and maps to keep the game alive. And with its fantastic graphics and tactical gameplay, it's hard to find a game similar. The process of infiltrating and defending a house has never been so innovative, with so many different ways to breach the majority of walls on maps, and tons of different gadgets and traps to set up scenarios exactly how you see them in your mind. This is one of the only FPS games where creativity before the round starts actually has an even bigger role on your success than your ability to click on bad guys. And with so many different gadgets and playstyles from all the different operators, it's easy to sink hundreds of hours into this game. If you don't have the best aim in the world, don't worry, aim isn't a necessity, as the majority of your fragging potential will be based on your crosshair placement, map knowledge, and game sense, so your ability to top the leaderboard will for once be based on the size of your brain, not the size of your arm for aiming. I don't know where that was going. Anyway, Rainbow Six Siege is just a super polished tactical FPS that has gameplay that you can't find literally anywhere else, unless you get Insurgency Sandstorm. That's kinda close. TF2 has been out for over 12 years, yet still has tens of thousands of people playing every second. It's considered by many the best class-based shooter ever made, and with 9 distinctive classes and hundreds of unlockable weapons to try, it's clear to see why nearly every single reviewer of this game on Steam has thousands and thousands of hours played. It's not the personalities or the music or the maps that people come back for, and don't worry, this game has some of the best personalities, music, and maps that FPS games have to offer, but the gameplay. In my humble opinion, Team Fortress 2 has some of the best gameplay ever sculpted into a video game, and with the Source engine there are so many different skills and strategies that may take hundreds of hours to hone, like trick stabbing or rocket jumping, that give each class more and more depth, and you more and more reason to keep playing to get better. Honestly, I have no clue how they managed to design a game this good. I mean, I know it's Valve and they're known for making the best games ever and whatever, but it seems almost by accident that TF2 was made how it was, because there's almost no way they could have predicted all the different ways players would mold the game systems to provide for deeper and more compelling gameplay. The biggest reason this game is sitting at number 2 is because of the lack of developer updates. The last major update from Valve came literal years ago, and despite the community's many efforts to even develop and push out their own fully featured updates, the lack of developer support definitely stops the game from reaching its potential. Even though the game hasn't had a real update in a while, the servers are still very populated, and it's as good time as ever to try out one of the most entertaining FPS games ever made. It's probably not much of a surprise for many of you that CounterStrike Global Offensive has taken the #1 spot, but I think it's important to realize why it's so popular in the first place, why it has the most successful competitive esports scene of any FPS game, and why hundreds of thousands of people play it every day. Everyone has a different reason for liking different things, and often a different reason for liking the same things, so for me at least, I enjoy Counter-Strike because it's the most skill-based shooter. Every single weapon is incredibly different from one another, featuring different accuracies and spray patterns, and every single weapon can be mastered. Every single grenade has a ton of different ways to throw them, and even the simple grenades like the flashbang and smoke take hours to master the usage of, and a lot of time required to memorize the best places to throw them or the most effective ways they can be used to fool your enemies. The skill ceiling in Counter-Strike is incomprehensibly high, so getting better is something that is slowly happening every single time you play, which gives great incentive to keep playing. If you look back at how you played CS just 10 hours earlier, you would definitely cringe at all the mistakes and lack of understanding you had back then, because pretty much every single area in this game can be improved greatly and mastered. The complexity of the gunplay and movement alone can easily take thousands of hours to hone your skills, and that's ignoring all the other important factors that determine your success, like tactics and game sense. Counter-Strike is definitely not for everyone. In fact, I'm honestly surprised that it's the most popular game on Steam because of how harsh it can be to new players, and how unforgiving it is towards those who refuse to learn its nuances, but despite this, the gameplay has kept people coming back for years. It can be frustrating, in fact, it will be frustrating to begin playing, and honestly, if you ask anyone in the middle of a CS match if they actually enjoy the game, there will not be a single person that says they actually like playing it, but the feeling of slowly getting better and evolving your abilities and then seeing it manifested with a 12-year-old calling you a hacker is something that's hard to get in just any other game. Anyway, that was the video. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you have any other FPS games on Steam that you believe deserve to be on this list, just drop them in the comments. It's sad I had to leave out so many, but to fit only the top 10, there had to be some that don't make the cut. Again, thanks for watching, and if you liked the video, you know what to do, and leave a subscription if you'd like to hear more of my voice. Peace.